I've been playing MMOs, particularly Korean MMOs, since I was 11 years old. I'm going to be 30 this month. They're my favorite genre of games. My first ever MMO that I invested major time into was Ragnarok Online, a tab target MMO. And then I went to various other tab targets, including World of Warcraft, Lineage 2, and Final Fantasy 11. Then I finally played my first action MMO, Vindictus. The combat of the game was great, but it wasn't an MMO really. It was a lobby-based multiplayer action game. It didn't have PvP at first, or any guild wars, or anything that I was used to in the tab target MMOs. But the combat was just so good that I didn't care. That said, I still wished in the back of my mind, what if a game could combine these two? And that's when Terra came about. At first I thought, this is it, this is the one, but then I got to the late game and I saw that large-scale PvP was literally impossible. Characters would literally turn into silhouettes because the game could not render them. You could literally be fighting shadows and taking damage at the same time. Terra was the first action MMO, so I knew that it could only go up from there. It took some years, but then BDO came. BDO is a mechanically rich game. I've played it for years. I've put in at least tens of thousands of hours. It's the closest to being exactly what I always wanted, but ultimately it wasn't. While the combat was great and fun, the desync was absolutely atrocious. The more players on the screen, the worse it got. It got nearly impossible to see what was going on, who was doing what, and there was no strategy other than basic things like attack or retreat. Also, there were no real reasons to play with other players outside of PvP, or the PvP in general, which again, the tab target MMOs always had. The same issue reoccurred in New World. So this brings us to Throne and Liberty. After so many years on BDO, I was sure I'd never play another tab target MMO ever again. Then I started to learn more and more about Throne and Liberty. I started to realize that this game had everything I wanted except for the combat. There's a large incentive for non-stop PvP, not just when there's a guild war every couple days. There's a large incentive for group play, not just when you're an early game or when your guild has an event. There's a large amount of progression, not just in experience, but even in your skill points, making the gap between a long-term player and a new player as large as a canyon. This game has little to no desync or lag, no matter how many players are on the screen. So if this game has all the good stuff, what about the bad? When I saw the initial knee-jerk reactions of the streamers, I did the same thing I always do. I asked myself, how do I feel about this? Luckily for me, I got an opportunity to even play the game so I could make my mind even further, and my mind has been made. Throne and Liberty has changed the way that I see MMOs. Now, when I say something like that, I really want to stress that I understand that some people may see MMOs differently than I do, and that's totally okay. Black Desert Online is a totally fine game. New World is a totally fine game. These games are there. Not every MMO has to be the same. Final Fantasy 14 is great. World of Warcraft, they're great games, but they're not for me. I like open world games. I like games that require you to go into the open world. I don't want instance dungeons. I don't want queue times and lobbies. I want open world stuff. That's what makes MMOs to me. That's what makes MMOs enjoyable. Going outside, seeing a player, being able to attack that player, worrying about that player attacking you, killing mobs, grouping up with your friends, grouping up with your guild for large scale environments, and doing all of this while getting rewarded for performing well with progression. That's what makes an MMO for me. That's what makes the best MMOs for me. And if it doesn't have that, then in my opinion, it's just not a good MMO. It can be a good game. It could be fun, like Vindictus. It can be fun and rich and all that in combat and mechanics, but it's not an MMO. I want an MMO. I want open world. I want constant player interaction, large player interaction, not 2 or 3 or 10 players. I want hundreds of players on my screen at the same time. I want to be able to see what they're doing, why they're doing them, what decisions they're going to make, and react accordingly without having to blow up my computer. So I tried Throne and Liberty. I played it myself, and honestly, I was blown away. The amount of attention to detail in this game, even the way it works when you walk over wood, you'll hear the sound of wood being clicked on. It's just an amazing game in terms of the presentation. The intro cinematic of the game is the best intro cinematic in MMO history. I'll fight you on that. I don't think anyone will even argue with that. And the game itself is just very polished, very well made. The UI is very good. It's very intuitive, very easy to understand. It's clean, it's sleek. The graphics as well. I play the game on Ultra, or Epic is what it's called. I had no problems whatsoever. Translations are great already. Everything worked like a charm. The combat was very interesting in its own way. It's tab target. Obviously, a tab target MMO is not going to be as deep mechanically as an action MMO. That's just impossible. However, the combat itself has its own layer of complexity in the parry system, which I feel like a lot of people are ignoring. Parrying and blocking or dodging, depending on what weapon you're using, can very much add a skill cap to the game, at least a small one, in the way that you use your dodges and time your dodges against players, and dodging their stronger hitting skills and blocking their stronger hitting skills, which allows you to counterattack them for free and blocks are always off cooldown, but they do have a resource that you have to manage. Final Fantasy XIV is one of my favorite MMOs. Unfortunately, it has the same issue that I'm talking about here. There is no open world content in Final Fantasy XIV, or there's very little. Also, there is no PvP, which really sucks. Open world PvP anyways. I don't like the arena PvP in Final Fantasy XIV. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is, imagine Final Fantasy XIV, but open world with PvP with meaningful group content. And yeah, that sounds good to me. Now, the problem a lot of people are having with the combat is that, well, you can't move while attacking, at least for most skills most of the time. And that's understandable why people would have a problem with that. Going from an action MMO where you can move and slide across the map at the same time while attacking to a tab target MMO where you have to stand stationary is a bit jarring and a hard pill to swallow. I completely understand that. But instead of looking at the negatives of what this combat system allows, instead look at the positives. Look at this gameplay here. Look at these players. You know exactly where they are, exactly what they're doing, exactly where they're going, everything. You can see it all. It's perfectly clear. There's no confusion, no misunderstanding. Even with dozens and dozens of players on the screen, you know everything. So that's the pro versus the con. Now let's go to BDO. The pro is you get to slide across the map and all that shit and do all this cool backflips, and yeah, it looks great, right? When you're solo or in a small group. But extrapolate that to a large amount of people and look what happens. You have no fucking idea what's going on. You have no clue. Like the only thing you can do is attack or retreat and hope that you kill someone, because there's no way to play like this. And this is playing BDO on remastered, which most people don't do. Most people play on optimization mode, and look at this. This is horrific. Who wants to play like this? This is so, like, I don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. The player who's playing this doesn't know what's going on. He's just trying to get kills and run away. That's literally all you do in this gameplay mode. Any person who's played it will tell you that, because that's all that's there. And then another thing I really want to stress is look at his mini map. Look at the mini map here. There, while he is showing all of the enemy players on his screen, there are blue icons here which indicate teammates. You cannot see them. BDO has a feature that turns off players when necessary, when there are too many on the screen, so that the game can actually run. So what the game has done is literally made it so this player cannot see his teammates. You can't see your teammates. He can only see his enemies and has to look at the minimap or assume that his team is fighting alongside him. You know how much that ruins immersion? Not only that, but in world bosses, when the world boss is too crowded, the game removes all players entirely. Yeah, you can turn this setting off, but if you do, good luck. There's a reason why it's on, and it's just not immersive. You're literally not playing an MMO anymore. You're playing a solo experience at that point, or a very small group experience at that point. So yes, that is the pro and the con. Now, I'm not doing this to shit on BDO. I'm just stating the facts. And the facts are everything has pros and cons. And that's one of them. It's something you have to accept though. Some people are willing to put up with what BDO offers because, well, it's no other action combat MMO has reached that level of fidelity. Open world MMO has reached the level of fidelity as BDO has. And that's totally understandable if you're willing to take the pro of BDO for the con. I definitely did it for a long time. But I'm also willing to take the pro of Throne and Liberty for the con of slower gameplay in order to have a more enriching combat experience. I just don't see what's wrong with that. And if you want it to be changed to where movement is involved in the combat while moving, you won't be able to have this level of fidelity. You won't be able to have this level of understanding what's going on your screen. It will be removed. And that is not something that I personally want to happen to this game. I would rather it stay the way that the developers have intended it to be and enjoy the game for what it is. And if you can't do that, then that's fine. Now, next, I want to talk about this game being compared to being a mobile game. This is a mobile game, right? Everyone says that mobile game, like it means it can be played on your phone. And I personally have never played a mobile MMO ever in my life. So I decided to go look on YouTube and try to find a mobile MMO, but not just any mobile MMO, an open world mobile MMO, because this is an open world game, not an instance game. So comparing it to something like Genshin Impact, which is a basically solo game, or something like Raid Shadow Legends or Diablo, these instance-based games, is not fair. So I went and looked up, the top 10 open world MMOs on mobile, and look at this. Are you telling me this is anything near Throne and Liberty? Are you really telling me that? Okay, so gameplay wise, graphically, we all know that Throne of Liberty is well above that of any mobile MMO, open world mobile MMO on the market. So if that's the case, people must not be complaining about anything as far as the graphics or the combat when they refer to mobile games. They must be referring to the systems in the game and saying that the systems are similar to that of a mobile game. So the first system that just screams mobile game is autoplay. After all, many MMOs on mobile, or open world or not, have autoplay enabled for people on mobile. Now, why is autoplay automatically a bad thing? It may have originated on mobile devices, but just because a game implements an mobile device original mechanic does not automatically make the entire game a mobile game. It's simply a game that has implemented a mobile game mechanic. Now, what's wrong with this mobile game mechanic? Well, I don't know really. I don't really know what's wrong with it. I've asked many people how they feel, and I've gotten a few different answers, so I'll just go over them and my opinions on the responses. So the first thing that people complain about when it comes to auto combat is it makes the game feel less rewarding. If other people are farming automatically, then my progression is meaningless if I actually play the game. And I would actually agree with this if it were true. If it were true that someone who plays automatically is progressing just as fast as someone who plays manually, I would 100% agree with that criticism. However, this is not the case in Throne and Liberty. In Throne and Liberty, you will progress way faster than anyone else in the game who plays auto all the time if you do not. This is because Throne and Liberty has many different systems that require you to be active in the game in order to get the most out of it. For example, there are PvP events that occur every 3 hours in different locations on the map. Depending on your level, you have access to higher events. Doing these events will net you a large sum of EXP, and especially if you come in higher rankings. You will never, ever be able to complete these events with autoplay on because they are PvP enabled. You will be killed and people will take your loot. You'll basically be giving them experience. That's just one way. Another way is grinding. Grinding in this game will become more and more complex and more skill oriented the stronger you get. People were already starting to see this at level 30 or even earlier than that, around the mid 20s. Skills have requirements for combos that increase their damage potential dramatically. And when you're doing dungeons or late game content, especially with a smaller group, the more damage you do, the faster you're going to grind, the more experience you're going to get. Smaller groups get more experience than larger groups because they don't have to split it between the monsters. So the less people you have, the more experience you're going to get. Also, there are going to be more spots in the game, late game spots, and these late game spots have mobs that will automatically aggro to you. They won't just stand around and wait for you to hit them like the earlier places will. They will automatically come to you, which will require the usage of AoE skills or very much paying attention, or your character will die. So the solution to this would be to either greatly overgear the place that you are grinding at, or go to a place that is weaker in order to survive, so that way you can AFK without having to sit at your screen and watch, make sure that your character doesn't die. This ultimately returns in greater efficiency in playing the goddamn game, which is something that I think is perfectly okay, because tons of MMOs have AFK features. For example, Black Desert, the game that people love to compare this to for some reason, has tons of AFK features that you can do in order to progress your character at a much slower rate than you would if you actually played the game. However, you still progress your character. Autoplay in Throne and Liberty is essentially the same exact thing, except instead of people being AFK in a town, they're actually outside in the world. Yeah, they may not be there, they may be AFK, but their character is still present in the world and vulnerable for attack by any player that decides to attack them, because at nighttime you can attack someone at any time, no matter what the zone. So at most they have 3 hours of safe farming. And on top of that, this essentially removes the need for bots. Now, tab target MMOs are very well known for having a lot of bots. A lot of games have bots. It's really nothing you can do to get rid of bots, because people are smart, and no matter what countermeasures they implement, anti-cheat and whatnot, someone somewhere will find a way to get around it. This is just a fact. So instead of having to worry about that, the developers have implemented their own form of bot into the game. Now everyone can bot, which basically makes bots worthless for this game, which is phenomenal. I love it. Not only that, it also limits the use of piloting. Now, there may be some people who will still pilot because, as I said earlier, it's more efficient to grind the game actually manually than it is to do it AFK. But I highly doubt that many people will be willing to pay for someone to play on their account when they can do it for free forever with the bot, but just less efficiently. So the pros of this system: remove bots entirely, remove piloting to a massive degree, and force players to be active in the world at all times when they're trying to progress. And the con is that it bothers you. I don't know, man. Sounds like a good trade to me. So what other features does Throne and Liberty have that mobile games are known for? I guess pay to win. So let's take a look at the pay to win. I myself am a huge disliker of pay to win. It's something I really respect New World for, even to this day. Pay to win lists, and that just goes to show that an MMO can remain afloat and somewhat successful without any form of pay to win in its systems. Final Fantasy XIV is like that as well. But these games are buy to play, and Throne of Liberty will be more than likely free to play, unless they change something drastic within the near future. So how are they going to monetize this game? Well, they have what's known as an auction house. Every game has an auction house, a marketplace, or whatever you want to call it, where players can trade their goods for in-game currency to buy other items in the game. Throne and Liberty does it a little differently. Throne and Liberty uses in-game currency and cash shop currency, but the cash shop currency is the only currency that can be used on the marketplace. So that means in order to get cash shop currency, you either have to sell an item on the marketplace, or you have to buy cash shop currency with your in real life money. Now, this might sound ridiculous when you hear it. I can buy cash shop currency with my card, and that is the same essentially as gold in any other MMO. That's ridiculous, right? Well, what can you buy with the gold is the real question. You can buy weapons, armor, accessories. Yeah, that sounds ridiculous. I can buy weapons and armor off the marketplace with my card? Come on, that doesn't make any sense. But you can only buy base level weapon and armor and accessories off the market. You can't buy them when they're upgraded. And upgrading in this game is the real reason why these weapons are strong. Just like BDO, in BDO, the base level of weapons, armors, and accessories is usually not that big of a deal. People usually blow up thousands of these. So being able to buy a base level in this game isn't really that big of a deal. And it is annoying because these weapons, armor, accessories have different stats on them sometimes, base level stats that are more valuable than others. So people are going to want to find the ones with the best base stats, and swiping cards is going to be the easiest way to get that. However, the increase in damage or efficiency based on that is, arguably minimal, but we don't know yet. But either way, it's a way to skip the RNG process, swipe your card, and buy the weapon that has all of the rolls on it that you want, which understandably may frustrate some players and drive them away because that is objectively pay to win. But is it pay to win to a level that you are uncomfortable with? It isn't for me. So you may be asking, okay, fine, that's okay. That's not a big amount of pay to win. What else can you buy from the shop though? I'm sure there's some way around this system. And well, there kind of is. There's one section in the cash shop that allows you to buy materials. The ones specifically I'm talking about are these gems. These gems are what allow you to upgrade your weapons, armor, and accessories, and your skill points. Now, they don't just do it on their own. They require you to get other materials, and these other materials are not available on the cash shop. You have to actually go out and earn those. So at the very least, you have to earn half of the materials required to upgrade your weapon. However, this half that's available on the auction house is the hardest half to get, at least that we know of yet. It is droppable by monsters and droppable by bosses and droppable by and rewards from events. However, it's much harder to get these than the other requirements, from what we know, that is. I think that they should remove these for the Western release and just leave it the way it is with the weapons and armor and all that stuff. But at the same time, I don't know how this is going to work. Remember, this is a player run cash shop, so it's available by supply and demand. If no one's selling this item on the market, people won't be able to buy it. So I don't know how it's going to work in the end, but as of right now, I would just feel better if it wasn't there at all. But that's just me. I hate pay to win in every format. I just don't like it at all. But I understand some games have to have it. But if you're comparing this game to Black Desert and trying to say that this pay to win is worse than Black Desert's, yeah, try again. So then what mobile game is this game pretending to be? There's no gacha. There's no extreme pay to win like mobile games. So what is it? There's not, the mechanics aren't it, the gameplay isn't it, the world isn't it, the setting isn't it, the combat isn't it, the autoplay, I guess, is it? Is a game having autoplay enough to call it a mobile game? Nah, I don't think so. So, in conclusion, Throne and Liberty looks like a great game. It has everything that I want in an MMO, other than the combat, and I've learned that the combat in an MMO is pretty much worthless if you can't have what makes an MMO. If you have to trade what makes an MMO for the combat, you have to make it into a single player or multiplayer experience, not massively multiplayer experience, in order to fully enjoy the game, then it isn't really an MMO in my opinion. But Throne and Liberty is. Throne and Liberty allows you to play the game with as many players as you want on the screen without any issues whatsoever. And I love it for that. I love the optimization and I love the systems implemented that reward the player for engaging in the world, especially engaging in PvP and group PvP and group content. I'm very, very, very excited to play this game. and I think that it has the best content at launch of any MMO I've ever played in my life, and I think that it has the potential to become the best MMO I have ever played in my life, and I just can't wait to get in and enjoy it. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.